So in this video, I'm going to show how to create a Sci-Fi Grenade inside of Plasticity. So I'm going to start by creating a circle, and I want to make sure that I have object snapping turned on. I'm going to click here and create a circle, probably something like this, and confirm with either enter or right mouse click. Now let's see, I want to view this from the front. I'm using Blender hotkeys, so I'll press 1 on the number pad, and I'm going to just create a simple curved shape, and confirm that, and then I'm going to select the point selection and maybe move this just a bit. I want this to be about, I'm sort of estimating the size here, but something like that. Okay, looks good. So what I want to do is I'm going to use this curve to create the base of this Sci-Fi Grenade. And again, I'm sort of guesstimating here on how big I want this. Might be a little bit taller than I was originally thinking, but we'll go with it. So what I want to do is go back to edge select and make sure that I have this curve selected. And we are going to choose the radial array and spin this around this circle. So I'm going to click the origin, and we only need 4 of these, so I'll set the number to 4 and say OK. Alright, so far so good. Now I want to create another circle here on the bottom. So I'm going to select 3-point circle and set, just basically click and use snapping to set that to 3 points, and voila, that's exactly what I want. So now I'm going to select each of these and press loft, and we want this to be a loop, and we notice that it's not quite matching up with our circles, so I'm going to use shift to turn these into guides, and there we go. That's looking pretty good. So I'm going to confirm that, and let's see, we want, I think the easiest way to do this next part would be, I'm going to name our circles. Circle, and grab this guy, also name it circle. Okay, that will help clean things up just a bit. And I think we want to grab each of these edges and use the patch holes tool. Perfect. And I don't know that it matters, but I'm going to choose planner and say OK. And do the same here. And that, because we've filled in the holes, should give us a solid, which is exactly what we want. Alright, so moving on, I'm going to select this face here and click extrude. So press E or just press that button, and I'm going to do something like this and say OK. Alright, now I'm thinking, I'm just deciding on the bottom piece. I think I'll probably create that as a separate piece, so I'll get to that in a minute. Now I want to do a couple things here. I want to select the edges around this and smooth this out, so I'm going to press D and do something like that. Press enter, and the same on the top. Press D. I like to make this nice and big. I'm going to do something, I might actually do something like this. Perfect. Okay. Alrighty. So So looking pretty good, looking pretty good. So this gives us our base mesh, the overall picture that we want. I'm going to hide these curves. And yeah, this next part really is just a matter of extruding. So I'm going to select this face and offset the curve. And it's not giving me a widget for this, so I'm going to just click and drag and do something like that and say okay. So I'm going to push this inward and create a chamfer. So I'm just guesstimating where I want things, and I'm going to extrude this. Maybe make it a little bit deep, make it more interesting. And then continuing on, grabbing all of these and pressing C and doing something like that. Perfect. And taking a look at my reference here that I have on another screen, I am going to grab this face, offset it, make it kind of small, say okay. All right, select this, extrude, and maybe something like that. All right. And then press C. And it's looking pretty good. I'm going to grab this and see if I can offset it. And then once more, offset this curve and make this middle part extruded, something like that. Okay. So this just gives us something that's more visually interesting in the middle. And let's see. Okay, so a couple more steps here. I want to work on the bottom of the grenade, then we'll focus on creating some decoration in the middle, and maybe finally add maybe a few things on the top. Cool, cool. So what do I want to do here? I think I'm going to see if I can copy this face using Shift D. Again, I'm using the Blender hotkeys in Plasticity, and we want to see if we can scale this up a little bit bigger. And finally, we want to extrude this. So I'm going to press E. It doesn't look like it's giving me a widget. So let's see, that may not. Is that going to work for me? It may not. Yeah, it doesn't seem to want to do that with the way that we did this. So instead, let's do this different way. I'm gonna grab this circle, duplicate it, and also name it circle. And I will scale this up. Perfect. Yeah, there we go. Maybe a little bit more. And I'm using this yellow part of the widget here. Oh, maybe a little bit too much. A lot of the difficulty in modeling is the actual design itself. Once you know what you want to make, it's not usually too bad. But I find the deciding what you want the model to look like is a lot more difficult than actually making it. Let's see. Okay, this is working, but I need to make sure that I have the face selected. There we go. Perfect. And from here, we might create some decoration on the bottom, but I'm not sure. We might not get to that. It's less important. And we also want to offset this face and do something that's maybe not quite to the edge of this inner circle. And I'm going to hide my solid here, grab this face and extrude it. If hopefully, let me oh, did that quite work? I'm not sure that that worked the way that I had hoped. So So let me try this again. Offset curve. And this is not quite giving me what I want, but it is giving me a solid, so prefer to just extrude this inward, but looks like we can still use these. I'm gonna grab both of these and use a boolean. Let's see, I need to change the order, and perfect. So a roundabout way of doing it, but we got there. All right, and then grab, oh, and that's, oh, one more try. Okay, so, let's see what we're doing wrong here. Oh, I see what I'm doing wrong. Let me back up. And I think, I'm pretty sure I'm grabbing the circle. Yeah, I'm grabbing the circle. You gotta watch out for which part of the object you are grabbing. And we will do offset curve. And something like this. I want to see. Well, let's see. I guess that canceled my operation or finished it, but that looks like what we want. So one more. Can I extrude this inward? I can. Perfect. Okay, so something like this, and we might even have to move our solid. All right, cool. That looks like it's working for us. And I'm going to grab this solid and move it up. And you can kind of see it's really faint inside there, but you can kind of see where things are at. So it doesn't have to be perfect, but I'm going to get kind of it maybe approximately matched together. So then switching back to edge mode. Let's see. I'm going to confirm that last operation. Going to select this and press D. Perfect. And select this outer edge and press D as well. And then finally this bottom edge and press D. And we could add some decoration, but probably won't need to. Now, this is a little bit wide, so I'm going to grab this solid and scale along just the X and Y. And it's not giving me a whole lot of precision here, so I'm going to try to use this. All right, perfect. Close enough. All right, so that's looking pretty good. So a couple more parts to this that I really want to add. And we'll wrap this up because this is a longer tutorial. Let's take go ahead and do the metal here. And I'm going to create a circle. Just trying to eyeball this. Something like that. Okay. And we will extrude it. And again, guesstimating the height, we want something in about this range that we're going to make some indentions here. And let's see. Perfect. Something like this. Now, before we make those, it might be a little bit easier later on if we grab these edges and press D and give it almost perfect spheres. There we go. All right, confirm that. All right, so this gives us kind of a capsule, and we're going to spin this or rotate it, give it a radial array. So I'm going to click the center. Let's see, do we want 8? I think, I'm trying to remember if I use 12. That's a little bit much. Yeah, let's see. We might use 12, but I might scale this a little bit. If I can. It may not let me scale this the way I want. So in that case, I might just leave it just to save time here. All right, and that's looking pretty good. Something like 10 might actually be closer to what I want, and say okay. So now here comes the trick. I'm going to hide the bottom piece and select the top, and let's see, we can skip over this solid here by pressing Control and clicking here and then selecting. It's a kind of a strange way of doing it, but that should give us what we want, and I can use a boolean, and there we go. I'm actually liking that quite a bit. Okay. So turn this back on. That actually looks pretty good, like I want it. Oh, before we get too far, I want to create a line, and I'm going to just make sure that this snaps and is vertical somewhere along here, and I might move it up just a touch. Okay. So what we want to do here is select this line and press Control here and Shift, and we want to cut solid with curve. Say OK. So now we have a couple different solids here, and that's what I want. So I'm going to grab this and press D and just give it an edge. And that might be, trying to decide how much I want here. I want it to be small but noticeable. Something like that, and then grab this other edge. It may be a little bit tricky to do so. And whoop, let's see, it looks like that did a chamfer when I want to fillet or fillet. I'm not exactly sure how to pronounce it. Press D. Perfect. So what this will allow us to do is keep these two pieces separate, and it just adds more visual interest for the final result. Okay. Now this part's a little bit tricky. And let's see here. I'm going to grab this curve, this edge, and press Shift D, and that's going to give us a new curve based on that. I'm going to hide this. And what we want to do is use the split curve edge at point. So I'm just going to trim. I'm going to click here and about there, and then select the point modes, and you can see where we've made these new points on the curve. And I'm going to delete the outer curves, and then we will select this again and press pipe. That's probably thick enough for what we want to do. Actually, you know what? Do I want to make this? Do I want to make it thicker? If I do, not a whole lot. Maybe. Oh, you know what? That's not the setting I want. There we go. I want the section size because I want this cap. So something like that, maybe? We'll see. Okay. So making another radial array. I'm going to go with 8. And I'm going to select the top, and then each, let's see, top, click Control here so we can skip over, and use a boolean and say okay. Perfect. Looking pretty good. So I have maybe about 1, 2, 3 more features that I want to add, I believe. Yeah, looks about right. Okay, so I'm gonna grab the rectangle tool and or is that one I want to start with actually? Yeah, we'll just start with that. Okay. And I'm gonna make a square. All right. Perfect. So now I want to grab this face and extrude it. Doesn't have to be perfect because we're really not going for precision in this example. And I'm going to just create a cut here. So we'll say this line and this solid. Whoop. This line, I'll just grab the solid from here and press the cut solid with curve. And whoop, it doesn't look like we have it quite selected. So let me try one more time. Grab this, view this from the side, cut, say okay. And we can delete those because we won't need them. I like to keep a lot of things around, but a lot of curves and other objects, but in this case, I don't think we're going to need it. So let's see, we've got the wrong object selected. Okay, there we go. And I'm going to move this to center it a little bit more, and we might scale it down a little bit more as well. So scale. Oop. Wrong one. Perfect. All right, so looking at how we want this, don't want it to be too big or too small, but probably something like that is probably best. All right, so this will probably do nicely. And I'm actually thinking, can we cut this? So I'm going to use a boolean, and I'm going to try a couple things. We want maybe Shift E. Nope, that's not what we want. Let's try that again. Shift Q perhaps. And I think, yeah, and so we have this extra piece in here, but now we've cut this. Oop, you know what? I don't think that's what I want either, because that creates a hole. So let's see here. I'm trying to think of how to do this without extra steps. So we might have to use one extra step. Okay, so I'm going to take this main section or main body of the grenade and duplicate it. All right, and I will use that to cut our piece here. And we will use a difference, and it looks like I need to switch them around. Say okay, perfect. That's exactly what I want. And we will use a radial array and maybe go with 6. And let's add some kind of clamp to our base. And I think what we want to do is I'm actually going to, in this case, save a copy. Whoop. Sometimes it can be good to just have backups of different parts of your object. And so if you need to go and change something later, you have a backup. So let's see. Let's rearrange these if we can. I think we want something like this and use the union option. And so now we have one solid piece here. So that's nice. Okay. And let's see. 1, 2, 3. Couple more parts to this. And I'm going to turn on snapping to the grid and reduce the size here. And we want something like this shape. And I'm going to extrude it. Doesn't have to be exact. And there we go. Now I want to scale this down. Let's see, whoop. Say okay. And we want to scale it down a little bit more. This will provide some additional decoration, so to speak, to our top here. I'm going to remove, or going to turn off grid snapping and just kind of push and indent this a little bit. And we will use the good old radial array. I want this set to 3. And I'm going to label these. This is going to be top. And we will continue to label, and this will be middle. Okay, so we want the top, and grab all of these and use a boolean, and so now we have some decoration here, and I think we're just about there. So finally, I'm going to grab my circle tool and create, let's see, I'm having trouble with my mouse today. I'm going to extrude this, and see, I'm trying to remember how I want to do this. Probably want to create a sphere, and in this case it's going to create a boolean, so do that and then create another sphere and go almost to the edge. Perfect. And say okay, and now we will grab this edge and press D. And grab this other edge here, press D as well, and this will give us kind of this button shape, and we will move these together. In fact, let's see, let's make this a little bit easier on ourselves. I'm going to press F for freestyle. I'm going to click here on this point on the side, and we are going to snap it to the top here and say okay, and scale this down a little bit, and let's see, we may need to adjust it once more. That's about the size that I want this. This will be kind of a button to activate the grenade, and we will let's use that freestyle mode again. And I'm going to turn off X-ray. That should make this a little bit easier. And I'm going to snap to the top. And now that it's snapped to the top, I can use the move tool. And let's see, where do I want this? Maybe about right there. Having some unique details like this just give it a little bit more realism. There's more we could do, but yeah, that's looking pretty good. I'm going to wrap that up there. This has been a pretty long tutorial, but yeah, I'm liking this. It's looking pretty good. Now, I will conclude, I'm not going to go through all the steps, but if we wanted to, we could do something like select all of these edges and go along here, and we could press D and smooth all of these out. I'm not going to do that in this tutorial because that's just a lot of steps and doesn't really require anything extra. But yeah, that's our Sci-Fi Grenade. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, please consider subscribing, sharing this video with your friends, liking this video, and hitting the notification bell to stay up to date.